The state of being in a place or situation that is separate from others. This condition of being isolated. The act of separating something from other things. The act of isolating something. So I definitely got placed in a site that was pretty isolated from other Peace Corps volunteers. I lived 4 hours from the nearest bank. I lived 7 hours from Managua. Traveling to and from Rancho Grande was just a big pain in the butt, but you got to do it. You got to adjust and adapt. But also being so isolated from other Peace Corps volunteers and not having that connection with them, it forced me to really go out into my community and get to know people and find people who like to play soccer, find people who like to play basketball, find people who like to cook, find people who like to do different things, and get to know them and learn from them and be social, because you have to maintain your sanity when you're isolated like that. But I had a good time, and I learned a lot about myself as an experience of being isolated.
I go on really, really long runs, like all the time. It was just 3 miles, then 4 miles, and all of a sudden I was out for 5 hours running, just running, because I like to be alone, and nobody could bother me, and nobody could correct my Spanish, and that was really nice. Would I change anything? No.
The more I think about it, I am isolated from Nicaraguans that I live with and work with because I don't speak Spanish that well, so they can be talking right next to me and I don't really understand what they're saying. And also I can't express myself the way that I express myself to native English speakers, so I'm isolated for that reason. The other thing is I'm isolated from US pop culture because I don't have easy internet access. So like Ariana Grande, Designer Panda Dance, Game of Thrones, these are things that I all miss.
Now everything is going wrong. Kept around and they notice.
Stand at the head of our army where you belong.
And going along with the pop culture kind of is isolated from news, especially like political news. But sometimes that makes me feel good.
Hi, I'm Char. So I felt the most isolated pretty recently after I heard about the Orlando shooting where about 50 people were killed and massacred in Orlando. And while I didn't have any friends or family or close contacts there, that probably was the moment that I felt the most isolated and alone during my service entirely, because I'm one of the few queer volunteers, yet I'm privileged to be out mostly within my community, but I'm still every day trying to navigate who I can come out with, who I can be honest about with my identity. And it was hard for me to be crying and to be sad after that event, because as a woman of color who is queer, I felt like other people were targeted in ways that I would be targeted. And I wanted to tell my host grandmother about it, and I felt really sad that I couldn't, even though I care about her and she's told me she loves me. It just felt sad for me not to be able to tell her why I was sad about that. And I'm out to my host sister, but something's telling me because of things like this that happen that I have to protect myself and my identity, so I haven't been able to come out to her. Maybe I'll do it right before I leave. But other volunteers have been very supportive after that and reached out to me, whether they were straight or queer. So I felt supported. I took mental health days with the PCMOs. So within the isolation, I did feel supported by other PCDs and Peace Corps staffs. Thank you.
Okay, so isolation for me has had a lot to do with moving to a really small town. I'm from a big city, and so just kind of feeling like I'm far away from a bank or other volunteers or people that I know. And I remember one volunteer coming to my site and saying, doesn't it feel kind of suffocating to know that like you can't just get on a bus and be somewhere very quickly? And at first it really did feel that way until I was able to build a lot more relationships and feel at home there. And I think that isolation for me, I have internet in my house, so I was able to keep in contact with my friends and family at home. But it was sometimes in my head, like I constructed the isolation, so just because I was geographically isolated, I kind of was like, okay, I'm not going to talk to other volunteers because like I'm up here in the mountains by myself, and like kind of cutting myself off. And so it can kind of be constructed in your own mind as well as in reality.